Checking on the Arts is made possible by the Orpheum Theater. It's going to be a big music weekend here in the Mid-South, but save some energy for Monday because Calvary Friends of Music is having an extremely exciting event, the Studerman Hardison Festival concert featuring the boy choristers from St. Paul's Cathedral in London. It is Monday at 7 p.m., and this is just an amazing group. They are on a major American tour, and Calvary is actually their next to last stop. Kristin Lensch is the organist and choirmaster at Calvary, and she's joined me today. Welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Daryl. Good morning.
Good morning. This is a big deal. These young men are just amazing choristers and singers, and we don't in this country have a chance to hear this group very often, so it's exciting that they're coming to Calvary.
Indeed. We are thrilled, beyond thrilled to be able to host them. They have 8 stops on their American tour this April, and we will be 7th. They will have been in Chicago, New Orleans, Houston, Dallas, Atlanta, before they come sing here. And then after Calvary, they'll head to New York City.
Let's talk a little bit about the program because they're really doing some wonderful things at Calvary.
Yes, they are doing some very signature pieces written for treble voices. So there are 23 boys who are coming, and they're performing works by Mendelssohn, by Poulenc, by Benjamin Britten, by John Rutter, an arrangement of a piece by John Scott, one of their former beloved choir director, who then left St. Paul's to come to St. Thomas, Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
And he was there for a number of years. Calvary actually has a great connection to St. Thomas Episcopal Church, Fifth Avenue. Our longest-serving organist-choirmaster, Adolf Studerman, grew up in Calvary Church, left when he was a teenager to study with the director who had been brought over from England to establish the choir school and the Anglican Cathedral choir tradition at St. Thomas Episcopal Church. So it's with great pleasure that we have this British connection that Adolf Studerman, Calvary's longtime organist serving over 50 years, having studied with T. Tertius Noble, an organist who came from Britain to establish that school in New York City. And it's his great niece, Lori Moneypenny, and her husband Brooks, as well as her brother Josh Hardison, who are generously helping us to sponsor this concert.
Yeah, which they actually do every year. This is an annual concert.
That's right. We actually established it 3 years ago with Simon Johnson coming to perform, the organist of St. Paul's Cathedral. So there are a lot of wonderful tie-ins here.
And I have the director, Andrew Carwood, here on the phone with me today. Andrew, thank you so much for calling.
It's a pleasure.
Give us a little background on this group, because my understanding is that there has actually been a choir at St. Paul's for something like 900 years, but obviously it's probably changed a bit over the time. So tell us a bit about the group that we're going to be hearing here in Memphis.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first records we have go back to the 9th century, which show that we were educating children in the cathedral so that they could sing in the choir. So you're right, it's a very, very long tradition. It's one of the oldest choirs in the world, in fact. But you're also right that it's changed a lot over the years. I mean, interestingly, in the 16th century, the choristers were better known as actors. They used to do a lot of acting for Queen Elizabeth I, and that was one of their the main things they did rather than singing. But that all changed in the 17th century, and here we are now in the 21st century, and they are one of the most famous cathedral choirs in the world, with a huge repertoire, going right from the very earliest plain song music up to contemporary music and everything in between.
Now, this is a relatively small organization, the actual choristers that we're going to have here. Isn't that correct?
Yes, well, we are travelling with just the boy choristers. So,
right.
In fact, the choir of St. Paul's Cathedral is the boy choristers and 12 adult singers as well. But we decided this time on our tour just to travel with the boys, really because we want to showcase the extraordinary talent of these young guys. They're aged between 9 and 13, and they do music which even adults would find really quite taxing. We've got a program which includes Mendelssohn, Benjamin Britten, Francis Poulenc, and some other sort of more modern, more relaxed things as well. It's an astonishing thing that they do, and we just wanted to showcase this great talent.
Now, what's the regular function of these boys of the choristers there at St. Paul's?
Well, their main job is to sing evensong every day, except on Thursdays. They have a day off on Thursdays. And in fact, they don't sing on a Monday. They rehearse on Mondays instead. But they do 3 services on a Sunday. So they do 7 services a week, and that's their main job. But on top of that, they also do recordings, broadcasts, tours. And of course, we do have a number of important national and international services which take place. So most recently, that included the service of commemoration for the terrible fire we had in London, the Grenfell Tower fire. Right. But also more happy things, the Queen's 90th birthday, for example, things like that. We do all those services as well.
I would think, since this is a fairly small choir of these boys, there's probably a pretty severe competition to get placed in this choir.
Yes, well, I hear children at the ages of 6, 7, and 8. They come along and sing to me, and there's really 3 things that I'm looking for in a young child. One is they need to have a really clear voice without any huskiness or any signs of any difficulty in the throat with producing their sound.
Sure.
The second thing I need is for them to be able to sing high. And sometimes I have to trick them into singing high. They don't always know how to do that. But as long as I can trick them into singing high, that's good. And what I really need, which is very important for me, is to be able to have a conversation with them. You know, you need a child who's sparky, who's interesting. A former organist at Westminster Cathedral always used to say, you want boys who climb trees, not ones who sit in the corner reading books. So I wouldn't hold that against any children. It's a good thing they do. But I understand what he means. You know, you need children who have a degree of danger and a degree of fun and naughtiness.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about your program. You're starting off with these wonderful 3 motets by Felix Mendelssohn.
Yeah. The program actually is inspired by, as I said, showcasing the talents of the children, right, doing brilliant music, but also because this year, 2018, is the 60th anniversary of the dedication of the American Memorial Chapel in St. Paul's.
Very good guess. Yes.
Yeah. It's a beautiful area of the cathedral, right at the east end, behind the high altar, and it was one of the remembrances, but also one of the gifts of the people of Great Britain to the people of the United States to say thank you for their support in the war, the Second World War. So this program also reflects some areas of that. So we have music from Germany, music from England, music from France, and then eventually, towards the end of the second half, we move into some music from the United States as well. So it's a sort of remembrance of all those people who were involved in that terrible tragedy.
Yes, that's a really good point, and that is something that I don't know that a lot of people in this country are aware of is the American Memorial Chapel. It's a very special thing.
It is, and it sits right at the heart of the cathedral, and it's a permanent memorial to all those who died and fought in that war. There's a book of remembrance there, and we have left extra pages on all of the letters, because, of course, we're still finding information about people who died in that conflict and where they are. So for many people who visit from the States, this can be their only link with loved ones from the past who they lost in that conflict. So it's a very powerful thing to visit it and to experience that space.
This is, you're approaching the end of this tour of the U.S., and you've been to some wonderful places, including the World War II Museum in New Orleans.
Just last night.
Yes. How have the boys taken this? Is this an exciting thing for them to be touring the States?
Oh yeah, they love it. They absolutely love staying in homestays as well. If they stay with families in the local areas, they particularly love that. It's partly because they get spoiled, of course, by all the lovely people who look after them. But I mean, they do a certain amount of touring in the course of a year, although we only do long haul tours like this about once every 2 or 3 years. But to be honest, it's part of what they do. You know, it's part of their training, is to cope with things like this. So I'm standing in New Orleans airport at the moment talking to you, looking over where the choristers are, and they're all happily sitting and reading or playing with stuff, waiting for a flight to go off to Dallas for a concert this evening. And it's something that they take in their stride, and it's part of the training that we give them. But when they arrive somewhere, then they are extremely excited and always have a good time.
Well, we're very much looking forward to their appearance here in Memphis. Andrew Carwood, thank you so much for talking with me today.
That was an absolute pleasure. Thanks very much.
Kristin Lensch is the organist and choirmaster at Calvary, and she's joined me today.
If you've never heard any English church music before, you won't be disappointed. Don't stay away. And it's an hour-and-a-half program. So I understand it's a school night for some kids, but it would be a wonderful thing if young people could come and see other young people singing at such a high level. So I believe the first half will be a good 45 minutes, brief intermission, and then perhaps another 40 minutes just of incredibly beautiful music.
Yeah, this is free, as we mentioned, as these concerts always are. There is a reception afterward, but there's going to be a crowd, so you probably want to get there early.
Right, we'll open the doors at 6:30.
And you've got great parking there, so people who don't get downtown that much, you don't have to worry about that.
That's right. The Calvary has a back lot accessible right across from the courthouse at the corner of B.B. King and Adams, and it will be free parking that night and secured, and then there are several lots right around the corner, all corners of Calvary's block.
Yeah. I was looking at their touring schedule, and I'm pretty sure that Calvary is the smallest place they're going to be on this tour.
They are singing at several cathedrals around town, or around the country, and also several huge parishes in Texas. Yeah, all these places seat thousands. So it really is a great honor to be able to host them in our humble but dignified nave, you might say.
Absolutely. Well, it's going to be very, very exciting. The boy choristers from St. Paul's Cathedral in London coming up on Monday evening at 7 p.m. at Calvary Church downtown. If you'd like more information, of course, go to calvarymemphis.com and .org. Excuse me, calvarymemphis.org. You can get all the info there. But this is an exciting opportunity, folks. Don't miss out on this. Kristin Lensch, my guest today, organist and choirmaster at Calvary. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you, Daryl.